Hello and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday, May 23rd, 2018. Steve Sipress here as the sun is setting on yet another spectacularly beautiful late spring day here in sunny Arizona. I think it was only in the low 90s today, which is outstanding for this time of year. Plus, we have a nice cool breeze. Just a beautiful day here, and I hope it is or was wherever you happen to be as well. And Ruben is here. Good seeing you. So today's rhino of the day is this very cool multicolored, soft, crunchable rhino. And it has a thing on the back that says Africanimals. I predict that's how you pronounce it. This is the Fatih rhino, and it is from a company in San Jose, California, Small Wonders. So this is a small wonder, and it's also a very cool, colorful rhino that I have in my collection. So we'll get right to it here. I was talking with a client today, and Ed is here. Good seeing you, Ed. Fairly new client. And it reminded me, I've heard this saying, and maybe you have too. People would say, like, well, it's just as easy to think negatively as positively, so you might as well think positive. Now, I've heard that, and yet everything I've read, and everything I've studied, and everything I've experienced, which is a massive amount of stuff on human behavioral psychology, because, of course, that's how I make my living, how I help thousands of small business owners make their living and get more people to buy their stuff and stick with them and become lifelong customers and refer and buy more and all that kind of good stuff. It's pretty much all based on human behavioral psychology. And everything I've learned and read and experienced over the years tells me that that's just not true, that it is much easier to think negatively. And again, from what I've read and experienced, or mostly from what I've read, I believe historians have said that this is because thinking negatively is and was, or mostly was, a survival mechanism for ancient humans that did not live in air-conditioned, safe houses tucked away in gated communities and all that kind of stuff today. They lived as rhinos do, being the symbol of the entrepreneur, in the jungle of life where you never know what's going to come after you and what's going to hit you. And so that kind of survival mentality means we need to be keenly aware of anything possibly negative going on so we can respond and react to it and survive. But nowadays that, we don't really have to respond to every negative type of thing. I mean, I hear the coyotes and the howling outside my window once every few weeks over a kill, and we see the wild animals coming through, javelinas and scorpions and snakes and tarantulas and you name it. And yet every time I see one, I don't have to go crazy and hope to survive. I simply go into my house and close the door. Or I call the pool guy and he gets the snake out of the pool. Or, call the bug guy and he comes over and gives an extra dose of anti-tarantula, anti-scorpion juice around the house or whatever. So it's not like I have to immediately respond. Or if I hear those coyotes wailing outside my window, it's interesting, and if it wakes me up and I listen, and I'm like, wow, there's the cycle of life right there, kind of cool, but I'm not sitting there thinking, uh-oh, they might attack me next. So this negative thinking has gone by the wayside as a survival mechanism, and it behooves you, and I'm speaking to business owners now, I'm not speaking to 9-to-5ers or people who work for somebody else, that 87% of America at least, I don't know what the numbers are around the world, but I hear that here in America 13% of us are self-employed. In other words, 13% of us are responsible for the livelihoods and the living and the lives of the other 87% of people in their family. So I'm not talking to you 87% that's either too cowardly or too lazy or whatever it is that you have to depend on us. I'm talking to us, those of us that make the world go round, the entrepreneurs that everyone depends on. And for us, it behooves us to think positively. And I'm not talking about Pollyanna, like, the power of positive thinking, rah, sis, boom, ba, let's be walking on a cloud of unrealistic positivity all the time. I'm talking about being opportunity-minded, being solution-minded, okay? We make our money by finding people that have a problem we can solve and offering our solution. So we make a living being solution-oriented. In fact, again, that 87% of people and everyone that's our prospects and clients and patients and members and customers and whatever it is in your business is depending on us when they have a problem, that they don't say, hey, I woke up this morning, I went downstairs and there was brown sludge dripping all over my kitchen, so I called you, Steve the plumber, and they don't need me to go, oh, wow, man, that sucks, I don't know what to do. That's just horrible. Crap, I'm totally at wit's end about it. I have no idea. Well, by the way, in case you're wondering, your plumbing business wouldn't be around long, would it? So it behooves us to be opportunity-minded and to say, like, wow, I think I can solve that problem, but tell me more. Let me ask some questions, blah, blah, blah. So my first thought, I've trained myself to get over the negative thinking that I used to have, and a key to success, especially as an entrepreneur, is to be solution, opportunity, positivity-minded. So my first response is, I'll bet I can fix that. Tell me more about it. Because I might as well start and get my mind racing into positivity world by saying, I'll bet I can find a solution. Now let me find out more about it. So I was speaking with this rather new client today, and he was off into, I said, what do you think about this situation? To see what his response would be. I'm not only looking to spoon feed my clients, although I would if necessary to spoon feed them, here's the solution to the problem you're having. I like to coach them and bring them along, and of course my clients have told me for decades that I'm an excellent coach, so I believe I'm pretty good at this, and I can coach people into thinking positively and looking at the opportunities and the solutions instead of being mired like this particular client was, gee, I don't know. Gee, I don't know what to do. Gee, I don't know what to do. Which, again, is fine. I mean, that's why I get paid, to help them and coach them. But even better than this giving them a fish by saying, well, then that's fine. Even though you can't think of anything, here's the solution. That's giving them a fish, right? The old saying, they'll eat for a day. But my job as a coach, the way I see it, is to coach them into being able to not need an intravenous, to me, call me 24/7, 365, whenever there's a situation that they choose to be negative and not resourceful about and say, gee, I just can't think of anything. Steve, help me. I'm going to teach them how to fish. I'm going to teach people, which I do, teach people how to be solution-oriented. So that's today's bit of Wisdom Wednesday, as I know it's natural and it's easier to be negative-minded. It goes back to, I believe, from what I read, to the days of survival, where we tuned in more to the negative, just natural. And if you are crazy enough to, I do it once in a while, and I do it just to have a pulse on what's going on in the world. And because I record podcasts and have a magazine that I publish and a daily blog, and I am known as a thought leader, and I speak and I consult with people all the time, it behooves me to know at least what's going on in the news. But anytime you watch that, understand the news is going to be overwhelmingly negative. It's just what it is. Don't think you're turning on the news tomorrow and they're going to say, hey, in our lead story today, there were 60 million American school children that went to school today and came home safely. Don't think that's like the lead story. They're going to harp all over the one school out of the millions of schools in America that 2 people got shot because some wacko got a hold of a gun and decided he'd go into a soft target and shoot up some people. That happens all the time. That's that negativity you're going to hear about. You're not going to hear, out here in Arizona yesterday, there were no wildfires. Film at 11. Like, not happening. But you're going to hear, red alert. There are winds and heat, and watch out, and there's a wildfire raging over here. You understand, right? The news is going to be negative. Don't get caught up, is my piece of wisdom advice here. Don't be caught up in you also always thinking negative and being down on yourself and thinking, gee, I just can't think of a way out of it. Please help me, Steve, or somebody else. Like, have a knee-jerk, that's a knee-jerk reaction, which is fine, that knee-jerk reaction of, gee, I don't know what to do. But teach yourself to, like, figuratively, at least bop yourself in the head every time you catch yourself responding to any challenge with, gee, I don't know what to do. And then jog yourself out of it and go, wait a minute, I do know what to do. Let me approach this positively. The old gun to the head theory is one way you can do it. And if it doesn't motivate you to think, what if somebody had a gun to my head? Could I come up with a solution? No, I suck, whatever. Well, then think about, what if there was a gun to the head of someone you love? Maybe you have kids. Maybe you have parents. Maybe you have somebody that you love, and think, what if there was a gun, someone put a gun, God forbid, to one of their heads and said, hey, unless you, Steve, come up with a solution to this problem, I'm going to blow that person away. I bet you'd be motivated. You come up with a solution. So hopefully you don't have to go that far, but I did in the beginning. I had to train myself with the gun to the head theory of I absolutely have to be solution oriented here and get out of the depths and the pits of myself wallowing in the mire of like, well, gee, I don't know what to do. So with this client today, happy ending to the story. Oh, and I see some comments I'll get to, and then I'll let you go. Is man, by the end of this call, even by the middle of the call, he was coming up with more positive, more ideas, more opportunities even than I was, which, of course, you would think he should. It's his business, after all. He's been doing it for a while. He understands his prospects, his clients, his patients, in this case, his clients, his customers. Like, he ought to understand them better than me, or at least, have a good idea in general about what's going on. And sure enough, he shook himself out of his woe is me, poor me, I don't know what to do mode. And he was like, hey, what about this? I can do that. I can do this. So much that by the end of the call, I just slow him down and say, now hang on. Now you've come up with like dozens of solutions of ways that you can easily bring in a ton of money and probably 6 figures a month easily with the ways he came up with them. Like, however, starting out, you're going to go crazy trying to do all of them once. So pick one. Let's focus on one and attack the one that's going to be the easiest, the quickest, the most fun, whatever it is. Pick one. Let's focus on that. Let's get that down. Let's systematize it. Let's get it practically on autopilot so it's like automatically happening. And then let's go do another and another and another. So actually, at the beginning of the call, he was like, I have no idea what to do at all. And by the end of the call, he had so many options and was thinking so positively and so opportunity-minded. It was such a joy. And those, of course, are confirmed why I took this person on as a client. It validated that I made the right choice. I picked someone that is, in a span of one half an hour, a 40-minute phone call or something, becomes a machine of opportunity-minded, positive, solution-oriented thinking. And what a joy it is to hang around and to work with people like that. So that's my last bit of advice, is if you just can't figure out a way to shake yourself out of your negative thinking of, gee, woe is me, I don't know what to do, get around people who are more positive, solution-oriented. Call me. I give a free consultation to everybody. It's not going to happen right away because I looked today at my list. I'm backed up for several weeks because I get just way more requests than I can handle. But you go to stevesipress.com/consultation, and I'll get on the phone with you for a 25-minute call where I guarantee to help you find multiple ways to bring in at least $25,000 in those 25 minutes. And usually it's well over 6 figures and much more. Like I said, I'm backed up with requests for those, but you can go there. And in the meantime, I hope you find somebody else that's opportunity and solution oriented. Again, stay away as much as you can from that 87%. I know you got to employ them. I know they're your customers. I know they're your neighbors. I know a lot of them are your family. Maybe even they live right in the same house. But mentally, avoid them because they are not in the same world as you. Okay, the 87% that depend on us, that work for somebody else, and are, like I said, either too cowardly or too weak-minded or too selfish to start a business and serve other people and live by always finding ways to serve people because we don't get paid unless we find solutions. We don't just get a paycheck at the end of the week like the 87% that depends on us for that paycheck. So mentally, at least, get away from those people and get to people that are positive-oriented. Successful entrepreneurs is what I'm getting at. Okay, so let's go to the comments, questions, concerns, and Jeremy Danley is here, and Phil's here, and said hello to a few other people, and I'm not being able to scroll up to all of them, but I see a few comments here. Phil says, oh, I could have brought my glasses out here, especially since I waited so long that I'm losing the light. But Phil says, I've observed that thinking negatively leads to. I've observed that thinking negatively, I think it's tends to erase from one a sense of responsibility to make things better. Wow, that's cool. That's kind of a deep thought right there. So Phil says, and Phil has been an entrepreneur for decades, also very successful, and someone you ought to get around if you can. And he says that thinking negatively tends to erase from one a sense of responsibility to make things better. Right. If you're just thinking negative, like, oh, there's nothing I can do and I can't think of anything, I guess you've self-absolved yourself from the responsibility to fix a darn problem already. And if you think like, gee, I'll just call Steve at any time, or I'll just go into my boss's office and ask him for a solution. Like, I'll give you a hint, by the way, if you are one of those 9-to-5ers, because I was at one point in my life, in fact, before I started my first multi-million-dollar business, I had every pretty much minimum wage crappy job there was, like tendency, because the boss, the manager's there for a reason. He's solution oriented. It's his job to solve problems, and he has the open door, and you go in and you're like, hey, can't figure it out. Now, if you have a good boss, it's likely that boss will do similar to what I talked about. They'll look at you and go, well, if I wasn't here, what would you do? Or what do you think you could do? Or something. But they will coach you through, so they don't just have an endless parade of weak-minded people coming into their office thinking, gee, I don't know what to do. Hey, boss, you tell me. But sometimes that's what we got to be. We're small business owners. We are the leaders of the world. And so I agree. Let's get you thinking positively and solution-oriented, because we do have that responsibility to make things better. It is our responsibility. The entrepreneurs, the business owners of the world, it is our responsibility to feed everybody else, to clothe everybody else, to pay their rent, their cars, their everything. I mean, they put in the hours of the time or the expertise or whatever, but we're the one that signs the check. And we better produce a profitable business, or at least revenue coming in, so we have that money to pay everyone's rent and car payments and insurance payments and all that kind of stuff. We have a huge responsibility. The world doesn't work without us, unless you ascribe to the socialistic, you didn't build that BS mode of life, which is just a murderous, killing, deathly way of life of socialism, communism, all that kind of crap. But in the great world of capitalism, he who can solve the most problems for the most people is going to make the most money. So become that person. Thank you for the input, Phil. And Jeremy says, it's hard not to be positive. Maybe I should read the whole thing first. It's hard not to be positive when you're in abundance of solutions, even if the solution is, I don't understand it, but then it says someone who has the solution, like a coach. All right, so maybe that's backing up what I said earlier. It's hard not to be positive when you're in abundance of solutions. So it's hard to be negative when you're around people that are solution-oriented. So get around solution-oriented, I think is what Jeremy's saying. Get a coach, not a crappy one. Get a good coach like me or somebody else that is really good at staying positive and being solution-oriented and being opportunity-minded. And hopefully it's a coach that believes in not just, again, giving you a fish to eat for a day, but helping you to learn how to jog yourself out of your negativity on your own. And not that I don't enjoy talking to my clients, but I really love when I see the light bulbs go off and I see the growth and my clients no longer need the nonstop intravenous drip to me. I miss them a little bit, so I will contact you and talk to you. But I just love to hear that, like, man, I had this problem, I came up with a solution. Just want to let you know, blah, blah, blah. I just love that kind of stuff. Oh, and Jeremy here says, knee-jerk reaction should be, I can fix that. I agree, but I'm also, a realist. And over the years of coaching and helping thousands of business owners, I know that it is a knee-jerk reaction as human beings to start with a negative thought of, uh-oh, that sucks, I don't know what to do, or crap, I'm in trouble, or just to stay in the negative world. I know that's usually going to be the knee-jerk reaction. Now, what you're saying is that the knee-jerk reaction should be positive. Well, that takes some effort. Take some thought. I did go to some Tony Robbins positive thinking seminars. I became a Tony Robbins trainer. The teacher always learns more than the student, so that accelerated my learning to be helping others to, be positive and go towards their goals. And, of course, just reading Rhinoceros Success by Scott Alexander that I talk a lot about, and helps us to think like a rhinoceros and charge towards our goals and damn the torpedoes. We got 2-inch thick skin. Who gives a crap who's shooting us? It just makes us madder. And we expect every day that we wake up in the jungle that crap is going to happen. We're targets. We're entrepreneurs. The rest of the world is not there to take care of us, as opposed to, as Scott teaches, as opposed to a barn full of cows. Cows are the opposite of rhinos. They wake up every day and they're perfectly safe and sound and they're kept, but they're never going to experience adventures of the world. They're going to stay in one little pasture the whole life. They're going to be told when to wake up, when to go to sleep, when to go out, when to come back in. They even need someone to shovel up their crap for them. They're going to have their body all grabbed and milked every morning. Like, what the heck? You give up all autonomy, all adventure, all self-responsibility, all self-worth when you choose to be a cow, which, again, 87% of Americans do, and choose to need the 13% of us to be the leaders of their lives. So when presented with that opportunity, hold on tight, and when things get tough in your business, hold on tight to that business and fight for it. Don't just easily give up and say, I'll just become a cow again, and I guess I'll just depend on somebody else to tell me how much I get to make and what time I got to show up and how I got to dress and what I got to say and where I got to sit and when I can go on vacation. I got to beg for my week off and all that kind of crap. Who wants that? So learn how to be a successful entrepreneur, and today's Wisdom Wednesday hopefully is a helpful tip for you. Learn how, no matter what your first reaction is, in the beginning it's just going to be negative. That's human nature. But then stop yourself and say, wait a minute. So my first thought was like, gee, Steve, I don't know what to do. And then I said, but you know what? I'm going to think of what to do. I'm going to come up with a solution because I'm solution-oriented, damn it. So let me write down 10 possible solutions, no matter how wild they be, and start your wheels turning. If you don't have someone, again, to call or be with, or you don't have a coach, you don't have someone like me, then you got to coach yourself and brainstorm yourself. And so instead of calling and talking and brainstorming some ideas, got to brainstorm with yourself then, or brainstorm with nobody and be miserable and negative, which is highly not suggested by me. I see that, oh my goodness, one of my favorite people on earth is here, and he told me he had his Facebook account shut off, and now it's back on again. It's the one and only Daryl Hill, and now we're going by Buster Hill, who is 10 times the expert I am in the human mind and what makes people tick and makes them successful. He's helped me a ton. And I suggest everybody get in touch with him. And he says, love this. Keep it up, Steve Sipress. Thank you very much. Those are a great endorsement coming from a great man. And we got to like reconnect and get you back into my client forum and all that kind of good stuff. And Carlos and other superstar entrepreneurs here. Thanks to everyone being here. Oh, I see there's more comments up here. And I really got to start recording these earlier because my age-old eyes are having trouble reading in the dark here. Phil says, I have a solution. Phil's writing in all caps. I can barely read it when it was in all caps. Now it's almost unreadable. But Phil is yelling at me for some reason. What did I do now? And he's saying, I have a solution to share. Bring your glasses when it's... there you go. So there it is. And just by writing that, I must have you must have done some ESP to me, because I channeled that and realized just by you typing a comment, I ought to bring my glasses out here. Or like I said, just record it when it's a little bit light out. Give me a break. And by the way, I can do that. See, so I'm going to leave you with this because there's an example, right? I got a problem. It's dark and I can barely read. So solution, glasses, recorded earlier, recorded when there's light out. Maybe I can even enlarge the screen. I don't know, but I'll think of all kinds of things I could possibly do. I could stay inside and looking on my laptop. I know I can enlarge the laptop screen. And so I'm going to be solution oriented. Okay, and I hope you'll be the same. So I hope today helps. And I know you can barely see me at this point. I can barely see myself as the sun sets over the mountains in the west. We'll call it a day, and I'll be back tomorrow on Throwback Thursday. You might have heard, if you're following my daily videos, I have been doing an unbelievable ton of spring cleaning lately, and I have come across some really cool old stuff, and I'm going to pick something out of the pile and share it tomorrow on Throwback Thursday. We'll have a lot of fun, and I'll bet I'm going to throw a little business lesson in there as well. So I hope you'll join me then. Thanks to everybody. Can't even go through all the names being here today, and all the likes and all the comments and all the engagement. I love it. And I hope you'll be back with all of that tomorrow again on Throwback Thursday. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for all those likes and thumbs up, and look what's going on. I love it. Thank you all very much. Love it, and I'll see you again, hopefully, tomorrow. Bye-bye.